Hello, everyone. This is of Dice of Nerds, and I'm here today with another Escanor video. I know that my last one has been getting a lot of views, and it's not entirely up to date. After I recorded it, I realized that my build for the character was a little lackluster, especially when it comes to damage and any kind of magical effects that might have anything to do with his sunshine ability. So, what I did to fix that was, as you can see here, instead of dipping 17 levels in Barbarian, I ended up only going 3 for the Path of the Totem Warrior. That way, we could have the Bear Totem to have resistance to all damage but psychic whenever we are raging. That will kind of mimic his ability to take damage, but at the same time not take damage. If you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. Background for the merchant. Depending on how you want to roleplay him, you can build it to where whenever he's not raging, which is a way that I did it when I played the character, whenever he's not raging, he's just his regular small knight form. So you can talk like this, like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Of course, please, just forgive me, forget about me," that kind of stuff. Then when you rage, you can change your inflection, the tone of voice, and say, "It's a pity. I was hoping you would be strong enough to face me, but it appears you too are weak," and stuff along that nature. You know what I'm talking about. That's kind of what I pictured with the Barbarian part of it. Since you can't just transform during the sun, you can use your rage to simulate that, which is what I did in the playthrough that I did of the character. Anyway, so you did the merchant for the whole bartender situation. The bear totem for the defense. The reckless attack to give yourself advantage on all of your hits. The paladin is what you'll go into after that. You're going to go the Path of Conquest with the Great Weapon fighting style, so that you can reroll your 1s and 2s on your damage die. And with the Oath of Conquest, you have your Channel Divinity of Conquering Presence. As you can see here, you can force every creature that you choose within 30 feet of you to make a wisdom save. And on a failed save, they become frightened of you for 1 minute, which kind of emulates when he's in his sun form and everyone's intimidated by him. That would be what I believe to be the closest thing to that. Next, you have your Guided Strike, which gives you a plus 10 bonus to your roll, your attack roll, which will come into play with your feat that you're going to start with. He is a variant human to start with a feat at first level, and the feat you're going to want to start with is Fell-Handed. Okay? So you have a plus 1 bonus to attack rolls you make with a Great Axe. If you have advantage on your melee attack roll, which you will with Reckless Attack, and you hit with your weapon attack, if the lower of the 2d20s would still hit the target's AC, you knock them prone with no save. Which kind of emulates his fight with Galland, how Gallon was really arrogant and just kind of looking down on Escanor until he sliced him in half with 1 strike. That's kind of what I was trying to emulate with this. On top of that, if you have disadvantage, which you really shouldn't with this build, but if you do have disadvantage, and your higher roll would still hit, you still deal bludgeoning damage equal to your strength modifier. And you can also use your help action to aid an ally's melee attack while you're wielding your weapon, knocking the target's shield aside momentarily, breaking their defenses, and gives your ally advantage on their attack roll and a +2 bonus to the roll if they are using a shield. which that's not really what I was going for with this feat. It was mainly these first 3 abilities. Okay? So you're going to want to focus with your build being Barbarian, Fighter, and Paladin. You're going to want to focus mainly on your strength and your charisma for your saving throws, if you'd like, and your constitution. As you can see here, with the point buy system, at the end, I ended up with the 20 strength, 16 con, 14 charisma. So it doesn't have to be super high to do all the stuff you need. With your unarmored defense from the Barbarian, your AC becomes a 19. You have 306 HP. You have a +2 to your rage damage with your great axe. So, with your axe, since you are a paladin for 13 levels, you have your improved divine smite. The improved divine smite will give you an extra 1d8 radiant damage on your melee attacks, which will kind of signify the whole I attack with the sun ability that he has. You have your aura of courage, which means you cannot be frightened, which is perfect for Escanor, because you can't frighten Escanor. He believes he's above everybody, and let's face it, he is. You have your aura of protection to help the ones around you. And you have all of your different spells for your paladin spellcasting. So with this, you can get a bunch of different things like Searing Smite, which I think is really good for this character, because you can cover your blade in flames and deal tons of damage on top of your smite, which really shows Escanor's power over the sun and his sheer strength that he has when he attacks somebody. So, for example, say you have a bad guy that your DM throws at you, and the bad guy is really arrogant, and he looks down on people, and you're Escanor, right? So you don't take that. So you rage, and you start talking to them, speaking down to them, pseudo mocking them, mocking their arrogance, and you just swing your axe. And when you do, you take your advantage with your reckless attack. Okay, so with your advantage, and you have a +12 to hit with your axe, you're going to be using your Channel Divinity to get a +10 to your attack. So it's a +22 to both rolls on your advantage, right? Most things don't have a 22 or higher AC. So as long as you don't roll a 1, then both of your die are going to hit their AC, which means, with your fell-handed feat, that they are going to be knocked prone with no save. Okay? So that puts their face in the ground at your feet for you to look down on them. And on top of that, when you hit them, you do a max level smite into it. Okay? So that's going to be dealing tons of damage on top of you putting their face in the ground, which would hurt the pride of anybody. Just saying. So I think it's a perfect thing for Escanor. Great Weapon Master obviously is good for getting that extra bonus attack if you were to knock somebody unconscious or if you were to score a critical hit. You can also get your extra damage on your rolls with a -5 to hit if you wanted, because even with a -5 to hit, you have a +17 on both of your rolls because of your Channel Divinity. So it still kind of balances out. You still have a really high chance of hitting with that extra +10 damage from Great Weapon Master, and you're still going to knock them prone. Chose tough here because the HP, once we were hitting level 20, wasn't the greatest, so I took the tough feat to increase it to over 300. The equipment that I was trying to pick out for him. I was looking through multiple different magical weapons and such. The axe here, Divine Axe Rita, that I have on my screen here, it's just a basic great axe that I renamed and added the 1d8 radiant damage to. So it's nothing special. This is just a basic great axe. The armor, I chose Adamantine plate armor to protect from critical hits. If your DM will allow it, I would say to try to find an armor of invulnerability. So I don't know if you've read the manga or if you've watched season 3. If not, then there may be spoilers ahead, so caution. But Escanor has this ability called the One, where at dawn he becomes, well, not at dawn, I'm sorry, at high noon, he becomes the epitome of invulnerability. He's absolutely unstoppable. And so the armor of invulnerability will give you 10 minutes of being immune to non-magical damage once a day. So that can be the one ability without having to choose an Aasimar as your race for your ability to burn everything around you and to have the looks. This is the closest thing I could get to the One. I chose the Necklace of Fireballs. It doesn't take an attunement slot. And since you don't have access to Fireball, you can use this Necklace of Fireballs to pluck a bead and treat that as Cruel Sun and throw it, and it will explode, symbolizing the sun that he throws at people. The Mantle of Spell Resistance will take up an attunement slot. That will give you advantage against spell saving throws, which naturally Escanor should have advantage against spell saves. He's invulnerable to most things. The Periapt of Wound Closure, that way if you did get dropped, you would still stabilize at the beginning of your turn without any assistance. And whenever you take a short rest to roll a hit die to regain HP, you're going to regain double the amount that you rolled. And then last but not least on the magical items, I chose the Belt of Giant Strength, if your DM will allow it. That'll increase your strength score to a 21 to a 29, which will increase everything else about this build exponentially. It would be ridiculous if your DM will let you do it, but if you can convince them, try to get it. Now, he's not just a Barbarian and a Paladin. I was thinking about Escanor's different abilities, and he's got one ability that I wasn't entirely sure how to create, which is the ability to command Divine Axe Rita to just come to him and answer his call. Right? So I was thinking, and the Eldritch Knight has a weapon bond ability, right? So if we look down here at the fighter, so if you go 4 levels in fighter, you'll get your ability score increased for the fighter, and you'll also get the ability to choose your Eldritch Knight class. So when you choose the Eldritch Knight, you get spellcasting, so you get some cantrips from the wizard spell list, and you get a few first level spells. But the part that we want is the weapon bond. So over the course of an hour, you can bond with a weapon, and once bonded, you cannot be disarmed unless you are incapacitated, and if the weapon is on the same plane of existence as you can summon it to your hand as a bonus action. So, essentially, what this means is Escanor cannot be disarmed while wielding Rita, which should be the case, always, and if he's caught without Rita, all he has to do is say, "Divine Axe Rita, hear my call and answer me," and it will appear in his hand, which is perfect. So using 4 levels in Fighter, 13 levels in Paladin, and 3 levels in Barbarian, you essentially are going to be able to do massive amounts of Nova damage, especially with your Action Surge. You will have spell slots up to 5th level, which is plenty high enough for a Paladin. 4th level, will max out your Divine Smite. So that extra 5th level slot is just there in case you need it. You might not even need it, but it's there in case you do. You'll have extra attack for being all of these martial classes. So you'll be able to make 2 attacks with your axe. Action Surge for another 2 attacks with your axe. And then on top of that, if any of those are a crit or if any of those knock someone unconscious, you get to make a 5th attack as a bonus action. Which is insane, to be fair. It's absolutely insane. And you're going to be doing so much damage. A d12 without a crit, you're doing 1d12 base damage for your axe, right? Then you're going to be doing 1d8 radiant damage just for being a paladin. And then your Divine Smite at 4th level is another 5d8s. Okay? So that's 6d8s and 1d12. And then on top of that, you can have Searing Smite on it. Now, that is a concentration spell, so you can't be raging when you're using Searing Smite. But assume that you're not raging. You have 6d8s plus 1d12, plus if you cast your Searing Smite at 5th level, I'll show you here. Searing Smite. This will do 1d6 fire damage every turn, and 1d6 fire damage when you attack them, right? But it upcasts. So for every slot above 2nd, it deals an additional 1d6 damage, okay? If you cast this at 5th level, then you're going to be doing another 4d6 damage on top of this. So you have 5d6 plus 1d12 plus 6d8 plus 7 without your Great Weapon Master. If you added the Great Weapon Master feat to that, it would be plus 17. Okay? So that first hit is 1d12, 6d8 plus 5d6 plus 17, and it's knocking them prone. Now, every attack you do after that is going to have advantage for you without your Reckless. Though if you've already used Reckless, you're going to have to use it for all your other attacks, which is fine. But this also gives advantage to all of your companions as well. So you smack them to the ground, grind their face in the ground, and look down on them, and you deal massive amounts of damage. And if that's a crit, all of those dice I just told you, they're all doubled. And that's with your first attack. You have 3 more attacks after that, and a potential for a 5th. Well, for a 4th. So comparing this one to the original build that I did, this one blows it out of the water. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was kind of all over the place sometimes. I'll try to post the actual build for it in the description. But until then, see you guys next time. This is of Dice and Nerds, and I hope you have a crit of a day. Thanks.